thing that would help is if you had a little machine.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonah Carter. I'm the Registrar for Alstead Transportation Museum. And today I'm going to be giving a collections talk on the 1934 Riley 4.4 sprint car and the 1940 Wetteroth. So George Riley, the creator of the Riley 4.4 sprint car, was an inventor and an engineer who became well known for his performance accessories of the Ford Model T engine. By 1920, the first Riley advertisement appeared in Ford Owner magazine. By the time the Model A was in production, Riley enhanced the potential of the new engine and designed a new overhead valve conversion called the four-port Riley. These vehicles saw a lot of racing action in the 1930s and 40s. During this time, the great majority of American racing was done on dirt horse racing tracks, which abounded all across the country. Shortly after the war, this Riley car was acquired by Bob Fisher, an aspiring driver and racing mechanic, who was a member of the International Motor Contest Association. Bob raced this car with this group until 1952, when it was fairly outmoded. It is not known when this car was sold, what year, but it next appeared in California in the hands of a collector and restorer named Chris Eggsgard. Eggsgard restored the car and afterwards sold it to two Connecticut collectors, including well-known mechanic and vintage racer Mike Hart. Hart raced it in local events and as far west as Ohio, eventually passing it on to a trucker Mel Clark, who in turn sold it to Alstead Transportation Museum board member Andy Rayolt. Andy and his wife Sarah raced in events for the Vintage Sports Car Club of America before passing the Riley on to Joe Freeman in 1985. Freeman loaned this Riley to Alstead Transportation Museum on May 29, 2014, and it was just donated to the museum this year in 2026. Now, moving on to the 1940 Wetteroth, which is over here. The 1940 Wetteroth was a race car building company founded by Louis Curley Wetteroth in the 1930s. 1932, a man named Harry Miller was commissioned to build a car for the Indianapolis-500. Wetteroth was brought on to design a chassis to house the engine. Fred Frame, the race car driver for the Wetteroth, managed to cross the finish line in first place. Following this successful debut, Wetteroth became a regular feature in the Indianapolis 500, winning races in 1935, 1938, and 1941. 1950 marked the last year as a racing vehicle at the Indianapolis 500, where the driver, Jim Rathman, finished 24th in the race. This Wetteroth was also owned by Joseph Freeman and was loaned to the museum on May 29, 2014, the same date as the Riley, and was also just donated to the museum this year in 2026. And now I'll turn it over to our grounds vehicle conservator, Warren Kincaid.
Now, Jonah gave us a good story on the vehicles. As is normal race cars, they tend to morph, things break, other things get replaced. These cars came out of an era during the Depression where gas stations weren't making, no one was making money. But you could go and build yourself a race car and probably race locally. Up here, I would have guessed maybe Union Fairgrounds with their oval horse track. That's what they would race on, dirt horse tracks. And you might win, I don't know, $25, big money back then. And it was a fun thing to do, reasonably dangerous, but if you need the money, danger is not, balance it with the fun part of it. And like Jonah said, this is a Riley conversion. It probably has a Model B block, which are just like the Model A blocks, except for they're balanced and they have pressure oiling. So you can get a longer life out of them and they're not prone to blow up in front of you. And they were made in garages. They weren't factory produced like a lot of the race cars are now. If you look at the Indianapolis Formula One car on our floor, that's basically what morphed out of this car over here. That actually raced at Indy, if the information is correct. This was probably a dirt track racer entirely. I don't hear any stories about it running at Indy. This would be a very small, underpowered car for Indianapolis. Indianapolis cars were generally built by factories. They were factory entries because if you won at Indy or if you were even in Indy, that was like you had advertisements on TV. If you ran a Duesenberg at Indy, come Monday morning, everybody wants to buy a Duesenberg, that sort of thing. No TV back then, so the racers themselves, the person and personality of the racers became the rock stars of the day. Like I say, no TV, no social media, so you earned your vibes by doing something spectacular, short of dying, of course. That wasn't very good. But a Riley head is a conversion on top of a Model A block or B block that gave it overhead valves. What you need to do with any engine is improve the breathability of the engine. Getting air in, exploding it, and getting air out is what it's all about. The easier it breathes, the better it is. Hence, this is why we have 16 valve engines in regular cars these days. These have 2 or possibly even 4 valves per cylinder, right? And they're overhead valve. So the air can come in like this. A flathead, the air comes in and goes into the cylinder like that. So that U shape really hinders what you can do with air. It all is increasing the flow of air through the engine. Now, you couldn't just call up anybody, Sears and Roebuck or anybody, and order racing parts. You could order the Riley head, but as far as the manifolds, those will be something you'd have to build yourself. One of the things that I find very interesting on these cars, which is a safety thing, are these skids underneath the front axle. And that's if you break a spindle. Metallurgy was not like it is today, okay? If you broke a spindle on one of these cars, that side of the axle would go down and dig into the dirt and flip you over, and there's no seat belts, okay? The theory was that you'd rather be thrown away from the car than ride it through its accident, okay? So these skids were, if you broke a spindle, that side of the axle would go down and just slide along the dirt. It wouldn't dig in. And you'll notice that on our Krager Racer. I didn't even look to see if this car had them. Possibly not, because it wasn't racing on dirt. It was racing at Indy, which they call the brickyard on purpose because it was paved with brick. So if you bust a spindle and the axle goes down, it's just going to skid across the brick. It isn't going to dig in like dirt track. When I was a youngster, we had a midget racing track very near where I grew up, and that was on a quarter-mile oval track, and midget racers were about half this size. They're bigger than a go-kart, but smaller than this, and they always raced on Friday night and Saturday night. It was a fun thing to do. So another feature I like on this car is it's got a Model T radiator cap here, but it's not hooked up to the radiator. It's got a regular cap down underneath. This one, you'll notice the sign says, no spark, magneto, question mark. We're kind of bringing these out of hibernation. They've been here 2014, okay. They were on a static display. You guys probably remember them sitting up on the ramps. They were sideways on the ramp. And who knows how many years it was before that they've actually run. So we're, in typical OHTM fashion, we're going to bring them out of hibernation if we can and run them. And we're going to have the Pine Tree Jamboree here in September. And these would be great cars to actually race again. Who knows when the last time they ran? Who knows the last time they actually raced? Okay, but we're going to run them and race them in the Pine Tree Jamboree. So that's pretty, for a car guy, that's pretty big news. I was really looking forward to being here on the Pine Tree Jamboree, but as life throws many curves, I'm due to be on the Main Lead T Tour that same weekend. We won't race, all right? Although we have.
I remember Wiscasset last year.
Yeah, we raced on Wiscasset Speedway, which was kind of interesting. Another thing we find interesting here is the gas cap is actually the oil tank. So I had the boys write down on this cap, engine oil only, because if you just look at it, you say, oh, that's where the gas goes. But like I said, when you're building a race car, you're doing whatever it takes to make it go fast. Who cares if the gas tank is an oil tank? It really doesn't matter. So if we move over to this car, this is an early Indy racer. Indy 500 started in 1911, and this car's in the 30s. So Indy had been happening for a good long time, and it became the number one. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of track racing, oval track racing. And this is what was being run in the 30s. A smaller version, but we're calling this an Offie, which means it's an Offenhauser, which was the primo builder of race engines at that time. And it makes sense that the story of this car says that the car was built around the engine, because you would buy an Offie engine, Offenhauser engine, and that was big money. If you wanted to win an Indy, chances are good you're running an Offie. So the car was built to benefit that engine. What made the Offenhauser special, it was all aluminum, so it was light, but it also had 4 camshafts opening and closing those valves. And remember, when I was talking about that car, it's all about the breathing. And that's what an Offenhauser gave you. It gave you lighter weight and better breathing than anything else you could buy. And they built the entire engine, where that car, you bought the B block, you did whatever you wanted to it, Ford B block, and then you would put a Riley head on it. Offenhauser, you bought the whole thing, maybe even the transmission from Offenhauser. So this car supposedly ran in Indianapolis and did fairly well. So we've actually had this car running. That car we have not had running yet. We're still ironing out the problems. This car ran. The kicker is the drivetrain, the engine and all that is not the original Offenhauser engine. I know what an Offenhauser looks like. And this one is, again, a Model B block that's made to breathe easier. When they put this engine in, it's still got the flathead engine where I said the valves are like this and the air goes like this instead of coming in from the top and going out. So I don't know what the story is on this. All I know is what I see in the car. So this will be interesting to get out and actually run it under power. We haven't had good enough weather to run this where the car actually goes vroom, vroom. We haven't been able to do that. The other car, what's on the list of things to do to it is take the spark plugs out, and because the engine is very stiff from sitting so long, we're going to take it out and tow it around a little bit with the engine in gear so that it loosens up and we can check the compression, and we may end up having to send the magneto out and get that repaired. And you can see the difference between this car and that car. That car is on the high end of what you would build in your garage. Low end would be it's a chassis and a seat and an engine and wheels, and that's about all you had. That's a higher end of a garage-built racer. This one is built to really, really go. You'll see a lot more craftsmanship in this car than you do in that car. All fun, though. So I'm looking forward to it. My physique is not so that I can get in and out of these cars anymore, but maybe I'll stuff myself in one and they'll have to tip the car upside down to pour me out. I don't know. We'll see. Any questions? Yeah.
I've seen you guys do some pretty incredible stuff. Is magneto something that takes like specialized equipment or knowledge?
It does. Yeah, in a magneto you have to restore it. You have to replace the bushings, and there's points and all that stuff. It's a self-contained ignition system, but it has magnets. Hence magneto. It has magnets, and they have to be recharged. So we don't have the wherewithal to recharge a magneto. So they get sent out. I'm a little bit nervous about how much it'll cost to rebuild a magneto anymore. It might be better if we just got the equipment. But we don't. The thing is, here, we don't have to rebuild an ignition system on every car we touch. Okay, so what's it worth? You spend $10,000 on the equipment, or you spend $10,000 over 30 years having stuff done. You know, it would be nice to have all the engine rebuilding equipment that we could do. It would be great if somebody came up and donated us all that equipment on their way out of business. And there are a lot of people going out of business on this kind of stuff. They're very specialized equipment. And yes, it's available, but is it financially worth it is the question.
How fast are the speeds on these?
That, with the B engine in it, just before it blows up, probably 90 miles an hour. And you're around a dirt track like Union, you might be doing 70, 80, maybe. You can make them go a little faster if it was just a straight line, just gear it different. And what you would do is gear it to the point where you're using up all the power of the engine to make it go as fast as it'll go. Gear it one more step and you'll actually lose speed. You have to match the gearing to the power. The speed on this, I would look up Indy racers. I'd do a Google search. Average speed for Indy racer in 1930. Okay, but I'm going to make a guess at 100, between 100 and 150.
What is that plunger-looking thing?
Oh, that's cool. Yep. This one is the brakes. No brake pedal in the car. That's your brakes. If you're racing, I know the other one. If you have to use the brakes in a race, you're going to lose. All right. This is an air pump, and it pumps up pressure in the fuel tank. Our Krager does the same thing, and we got tired of running out of gas, so we put an electric fuel pump in it, so nobody has to worry about it. But in 1930, they didn't have electric fuel pump, and this is how you would do it. As soon as your pressure gauge gets down to around 2 pounds, you start pumping this till you get up around 4 pounds. So the driver had stuff to do. It wasn't just the steering wheel and the gas pedal. You had to know your car, you had to know how to make it go, and that's what this is. It's nothing but an air pump, just like pumping up a bicycle tire, and it pressurizes the fuel tank. Okay, you're free.